Hello dear students, I am Rajiv Dash, your S.S.T teacher. Today we will take a quick revision of our first chapter from history book. Your chapter name is How, When and Where. Firstly, let me ask you a question that when do you hear the term history, what is the first thing comes in your mind? I know that you immediately start to think about past stories, kings, battles, etc. Yes, you are absolutely right. History. What is history? What is the definition of history? Here, look at this paragraph in your book. There is a clear definition about history. History is certainly about changes that occur over time. It is about finding out how things were in past and how things have changed. As soon as we compare the past with the present, we refer to time. We talk of before and after. So history about something that happened in past. So in this chapter, you will learn about how do we write history, which dates are important, which dates to be included in your history writing, some of the Indian historians, British historians, Indian history book, and what are the sources that historian do use to write history. So this is very short chapter. You will learn this video tutorial. Okay, let's start. So firstly, I have cleared that what is history. You can write this from this paragraph. History is certain about changes that occur over time. It is also about finding how things were in past and how things have changed. Okay, so in history there are different events that happen in past are included, but now the question is that which event should be included in history. In our daily life we do lots of activities. We are seeing TV, we are walking, we are playing in the field, we are going to school, but all this thing we do not remember all this thing in what happened in our daily life. So the same thing, what event, which date should be remembered in history. Look at this image. Here you can see one woman standing and one person bowed down and transferring some text. Let me introduce this woman is the Britannia, Greek goddesses of knowledge, and the person bowed down to Britannia is Brahmas. Here the description available in figure 1. You can see the image portrayed by James Rennell. Note down, James Rennell was a British cartographer mapmaker who was assigned to prepare the entire map of India by British government. So he was known as the father of Indian cartography or map making. So what can you see from this image? You can see that British Indians are transferring their knowledge to British. So here is an example exercise. Look carefully at the figure 1 and write a paragraph explaining how this thing projections and imperial perception. What is imperial? Imperial means anything that is related to the royal family, royal British family, British kingdom, like Elizabeth, etc. Perceptions mean thought. So here from this image we can imagine that the Indians god bow down to British god and transferring their knowledge. Here look at this description. The picture here tries to suggest that Indian willingly gave over their ancient text to Britannia. So this picture symbolizes the royalty, the greatness, the glory of British, that they capture India. So this is important thing. So my first question is that which dates, which events should be included in history book? we do not include the all phenomena that happen in our daily life, but we include the major thing, something that is that have a large impact. We include those events only. So this picture also placed in history. Look at this, there is a date 1782, the year of drawing. So all such historian question refers to back to notion of time, but time does not have to be always precisely dated in terms of particular year or a. So history is always related to our past time, but here's a problem that the past time and date was not properly recorded, as in past time there is no modern facilities, or there was no intention to record all phenomena precisely. For an example, the people of India did not begin drinking tea one fine day. They developed the taste for over the time. There can be no one clear there can be no one clear date for process such as this. Similarly, we cannot fix one single date on which British rule was established. You know that the first British rule was started after the Battle of Plassey, or the national movement started, or the changes took place within the economy of society. So there were lots of information. So here one question is that from which source historians do use to collect their information. Look at this. Here is a advertisement for Lipton teas. This old advertisement helps us understand how market for new products were created and new tastes were popularized. This 1922 advertisement for Lipton tea suggests that royalty all over the world is associated with this tea. Means at that time in 1922 the Lipton tea was famous all over the world. And in this advertisement you can see that there is an Indian palace and in the background you see the outer wall of Indian palace, while the foreground seated on horseback is the third son of Queen Victoria of Britain, Prince Arthur, who was given the title Duke of Connaught. So you can take a concept about past from this advertisement. So historians do use this type of source to write their history, to mention date. Next, which dates to be included in your history? As I said, in our daily life there are lots of events happened, but we do not include in history, or we do not remember all these phenomena. This is the same thing. But which date should be included? It depends on a particular historians. For an example, you always remember your birthday, you remember the festival that you celebrate in your home, but your neighbors, your distant relatives do not remember your all phenomena. They remember their birthday, their festival. So for writing history, the historian mention dates for their own interest. For an example, in the history written by British historian in India, the rule of each governor was important. Look at this. The British historian always mention their interest, but Indian historian always mention our history. This history began with the rule of first governor general. Here one short question may be maybe in your exam from this part, who is the governor general, first governor general? Warren Hastings, note down. And ended with the last viceroy, Lord Mountbatten. So the British historian always keep the record of their work, but the Indian historian include the others thing like Battle of Plassey, like Battle of Panipat, etc. One important thing you should know that when we write history or a story, we divide it into chapters. Why do we do this? Because it is to give each chapter some coherence, and it is to tell a story in a way that makes some sense and can be followed. So historian, when writing history, always mention a particular time period, like the British time period for 200 years, started from 1757 to 1947. So why do we use this particular time period? Because it gives us a particular overall concept about the historical thought. So how do we periodize? Periodize means dividing the entire time period, a particular time span. James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, published a massive 3-book work, The History of British India. He wrote a book, The History of British India, in which he divided the Indian history into 3 categories: Hindu, Muslim and British. This periodization came to be widely accepted, but can you think that any problem with this division? He divided Indian history into Hindu, Muslim and British. You can see he divided the Indian history on the basis of religion and British administration. But he mentioned only 2 religions, Hindu and Muslim. But at that time, in British period, there were so many religions like Buddhism, like Jain, like Parsis, etc. He did not mention. So here is the problem with this periodization or division of time. So why do we divide history into different periods? This is a question. It may be in your exam. Note down. We do so in the attempt to capture the characteristics of time. As I mentioned that we divide or we mention a particular time period like British period, like Mughal period, like Sultan period, etc. So why do we periodize history? We do so in the attempt to capture a characteristics of time, its central figure as they appear to us. So the term through which we periodize, that is demarcate the difference between period, become important. They reflect our idea about the past. James Mill thought that all Asian society were at lower level of civilization than European. According to his telling of history, before British came to India, Hindu and Muslim despots ruled the country. Religious intolerance, caste, taboo, superstitious practice dominated social life and social life. British rule, Mill felt, could civilize India. So why did he divide the Indian history into 3 categories in the Muslim? Here is the answer. He thought that the all Asian society was suffering with the old age taboo, religious intolerance. They fought to each other before British came to India. So that's why he used the term Hindu, Muslim and British. But here is a problem with this classification. Some of the Indian historian question over this division, that at that time there were so many religions and Mill did not mention those religious groups. Look at this. In this idea of history, British rule represented all the force of progress and civilization. The period before British rule was one of darkness. Can such a concept be accepted today? Never, because our ancient king, our ancient ruler made significant achievement in so many fields: science, in culture, in monument construction, etc. Another periodization in which historians divided Indian history into three categories: ancient, medieval, and modern. Look at this. The first classification, first division of Indian history by James Mill, in which he divided Hindu, Muslim, and British. And he thought that the Indian society was uncivilized, intolerable, full of religious, superstitious practice before British came to India, and they made the Indian civilized. So here is a problem with this division, that he did not mention other groups, and he projected our society in wrong way. So another division is ancient, medieval, and modern. This division also borrowed from the Western culture, where there was particular growth of time. But in Indian society, you can't define that which period should be ancient, which period should be medieval, and which period should be modern. Because in Western society, Western means America, in England, in France, where the Industrial Revolution was started, considered as modern period. Medieval period in 1500, 1400, at the time, and ancient period 600, 700, 900 AD, etc. Next, what is colonial? Colonial is a particular term which defines that when a strong country subjugate or subordinate a weak country and impose their political, economic, cultural character on that country. Look at this. Here is the definition: when the subjugation of one country by another lead to this kind of political, economic, social, and cultural change, we refer to the process as colonization. So in India, there were different types of colonizations made by British, French, Dutch, etc. You know that. How do we know? It means what source do historians use in writing about the last 250 years? Look at this: administrative procedure records. It means when British spread their colonization all over India, they established different district magistrate office, police station, etc. So they kept record about those different different event in India in their office. So one important source, this is one important source for to history and to write about Indian history. Look at this: administrative procedure records. One important source is the official records of British administration. The British believed that the act of writing was important. Every instructions, plan, policies, decision, agreement, investigation had to be clearly written up. Once this was done, the thing could be properly studied and debated. So they used these records to write history. Another important source, the surveys become important. What is survey? Survey means field verification and preparing map. सर्वे का मतलब है फील्ड में जाकर, ग्राउंड में जाकर किसी भी जगह का मैप बनाना, उसमें जो ऑब्जेक्ट से उसको पर्टिकुलर लोकेशन फिट करना. तो तभी जैसे कि तुमने पहले देखा जेम्स रेनेल ने इंडिया का मैप बनाया था, तो वो एक सर्वे था. So this is one of the important source to the historian for writing history. So what sources do historians use for writing history? Administration procedure records. It means that the record kept in police stations, the record kept in district magistrate office and several museum, etc. Surveying records, this is the authority who prepared the map of India also. But here is a problem, what officials record do not tell. At that time there were lots of events, but official records only kept a specific event. For example,